Hey, in this example, I want to go through how to calculate this MPS, or this I keep wanting to say marginal propensity to save because I'm an economist. So let me go back and get the master production schedule. There, that sounds a little better. So this master production schedule is you trying to organize yourself in a production process and determine when it's time for you to produce more in order to meet the demands for your product. So in my notes in equation 1, or on page 724 of your textbook at the lower fourth of the page, there's an equation that helps you calculate this projected inventory. And the first thing we've got to do is we've got to make sure that we have information into our table correctly. For example, we were told in this example that over the next 8 weeks, we're forecast to have demand of 60 units per week. We have some confirmed customer orders, and we need to meet those orders. And we need to go in and say something like, okay, well, what is our projected inventory then? And so how do I calculate this? Okay. Well, the first thing I've got to do is I've got to use this equation 1, and I say, okay, projected inventory, let's see, that's my inventory from last time period. And then it says to add the MPS from this time period. Now, I don't like that it says that in this equation. The reason I don't is we're trying to determine whether we're going to increase this master production schedule. And that variable, that MPS, is our trigger variable. I don't know whether to change it until after this calculation is over. So let me do the calculation this way. I've got the current inventory minus now the maximum of either the demand or what's actually been ordered. And notice that comes out negative, meaning I don't have enough inventory to cover the customer orders. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and do an if statement. I'm going to say, well, if this projected inventory is negative, now notice it's negative, we don't have any safety stock. That's why 0 is coming up here. If we had a safety stock, the border would not be 0. The border would be whatever the number is for the safety stock. But right now is 0. Okay, so if this projected inventory is negative, then I need to create a lot. And our lot size is 80 in each time period. So when we produce, it's produced in blocks, and it's produced in blocks of 80 units. Okay, so this MPS is either I'm adding 80 units or I'm adding nothing. So that's my if statement. If my projected inventory is negative, produce 80 units, otherwise produce nothing. Okay? So there's my MPS. Will I be able to cover my sales from this? Now this is my inventory calculation that looks a lot more like the one in equation 1 and on the bottom of page 724. Now I go in and I say, well, what was my inventory last period? And what is my production this period minus the maximum of these two? Now, why the maximum, right? Well, one's a forecast that was done beforehand, so I didn't really know for certain how much I'd be selling, but I have 65 confirmed customer orders. I know now what I'll be selling, okay? So I'm selling 65 units. All right, so I will have an inventory of 20 at the end of week 1. Okay, well now I need to go down and I need to make another one of these projected inventories. Well, it's equal to the inventory that's left over from the prior period. Now, once again, this projected on-hand inventory, a very misleading name there in equation 1. And it threw me while I was trying to work this out in Excel. But I think a better way to go is, well, I don't know, my initial projection is that I won't produce anything. I got to figure out whether I'm going to need it or not. So it's my inventory from the prior period minus the maximum of either my forecast or the customer orders. And it's negative. Okay, now once again, I could copy this if statement down, because this if statement is going to say, oh, I got to look over here, and if this thing is negative, I need to produce 80 units. So I should be able to just copy this down. It's negative, I'm going to produce 80 units, and then I need an inventory number. What is my inventory going to be at the end of week 2? Well, it's going to be my starting inventory plus this minus the maximum of these two numbers. So I should be able to just copy this down. Okay? So I'm going to have 40 units left over in the next time period. All right, now once again, let me walk through this probably just this last time. And I'm going to do this inventory, or projected inventory. It's just the inventory from the prior period minus what's being sold in week 3. And once again, it's negative. And so I am going to produce again. Okay? And it's going to lead to a closing inventory of 60. Okay? Well, now that we put the equations in a couple of times, let me just copy this and see what happens. Well, look at that. We finally hit our first projected inventory of 0. All right, well, so what do I do with 0? I produce 0. And my inventory is going to go to 0. All right, well, this is kind of saying I've got 1, 2, 3 weeks straight of production runs and then a week off. What's it going to do to my inventory? Well, my inventory is building, 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 and then we use up the inventory. Well, what happens next time period? Next time period, I'm back to negative. I need to build again, leaving me with 20 units of inventory at the end. Now notice I can just grab all of these and copy all the way down. Okay. And so I have this produce for 3 weeks, week off, produce for 3 weeks, week off. And my inventory is build, 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 fall to 0, build, 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 falls to 0. Now once again, if we had a safety stock, then this 0 wouldn't have been our target. But since it is, then that becomes our target. I actually don't like the way one of my functions is behaving, because I said less than 0, and 0 is not less than 0. Oh, nope, okay. It's okay, so it can be 0 or greater and I have to produce. Okay, never mind, I'm okay with that. So here's how to use that equation described on page, or example 18.1 in the textbook and in my notes. I refer to this example. Now the next video is going to come back and we're going to look at this ATP, which obviously we've got to figure out what that ATP means. It's available to promise. So, can my sales team ask other people for sales and me fill in this column D, even though I've got this production schedule going on? And what the ATP is all about is, okay, well, can I make that promise? And if so, in which week can I make that promise? So I will see you on the next video. I hope this is